Hello and welcome to PHoGaN, which is photography in the home, garden and neighbourhood. So this is episode 6. I can't believe we've got here already. How's your isolation going? Yeah, I know what it's like as well myself. Anyway, at least we have photography to take our mind off it all, don't we? So, coming up today, we're going to be chatting about focusing on the usual in an unusual way, in detail, in your own neighbourhood. We'll chat about that though in a moment. As you can notice, currently we've been having rain the last few days, and it has been raining on and off today, so hence that's why I'm dressed like this. But anyway, the thing about photography is, as I said to you before, there's no such thing as bad light, you just have to adapt for it. And it's the same for when it comes dressing for photography. You really have to get yourself dressed and go out there and experience all the different sorts of lights you can, okay? I personally love the rain, so I've really enjoyed being out and about with my camera. The one tip I would give you though and share with you about photographing in the rain is, from my own experience, there's no such thing really as a waterproof camera unless you buy a special waterproof camera. I do have one, which is a compact camera, which I tend to use, and it's waterproof to the point that I can actually go underwater with it as well if I want to. I think this one only does 9 foot, but it's still a useful tool to have. And obviously if you're doing undersea diving, then of course people have special cameras and special casings for that. But most of us will have a camera which they tell us is weatherproof, but in reality it's not really. Most cameras, unless they're a specialist camera, will absorb water at some point, and water is the biggest enemy, one of the biggest enemies anyway, to knacker your camera gear. Now, today's project is going to be photographing detail in your neighbourhood. And one of the advantages of this isolation period we've all been going through is that for most of us who have been limited to travelling inside our house garden or in our very local neighbourhood, gives us a great chance to get to know a place. And the thing about photography is it can help you view your neighbourhood in a way that perhaps you haven't seen it before. So there's detail you can go and look at, and you can also it makes you just look differently at the world you're around. So I've been out with my camera and I've been taking lots of pictures of different things. I've become very obsessed with manholes, and I had not realised how many different grid coverings and manholes there are in my own neighbourhood. Now, considering I've lived here for 24 years now, you think I would have known them by now, wouldn't you? But there's that sort of detail you don't recognise, and you start walking around and you get up close to a park bench and you look at a park bench and you wonder to yourself, well, that's an interesting shape, I've never seen that before. So the whole point is to go out and about and look for different shapes and look at the world around you, look at the detail which you pass by on a different day. So it's the same perspective perhaps of your everyday life, but I would like you to look at it in a different way, from a different angle, so you have a different point of view. Okay, so maybe rather than just looking straight down at something, what you can do is to get very close to it and focus in on that detail. Now, I've mentioned manholes, there's obviously also drain covers, but there's also brickwork as well. And another thing worth looking for is textures. You can look for textures. This shot here I took of texture, which was a gate post, and it's got this lovely flower growing beside it, and there's 3 or 4 different textures in there which I really like. To be fair, I'd never really looked at that gate post in that much detail before. And of course, when you break it down into little bits, well, that's really silly talking about that, but the reality is it really makes your mind look at your local environment in a different way, and you really start to soak up those details, and then you start to understand how much detail there is in our life. So it's either man-made or natural natural objects or subjects or plants and stuff, and you can look at them differently. Now, we have spent a lot of time on these PHoGaNs up to now, on the first 5, this is number 6. And I've been asking you, have used plants in close-ups and vistas as general things, but what I haven't really asked you to do is to turn them into patterns. So if you do a close-up on a leaf, for example, particularly when it's raining, because we can incorporate rain into this style of photography, you can then start to make your own patterns looking at the leaves, yeah? And also, of course, at this time you can start doing close-ups of those things which are really alien to our usual world, pre-quarantine, where, you know, such as playgrounds being shut off, and you can do pictures of that, but come in close and look at the world differently. For example, I photographed the other day before the rain, or just the first shower had been, I photographed some of that sort of warning hazard type. It was a it was a white and red hazard type tape around the playground with raindrops falling off it. Well, I went back 24 hours later after we must have had, well, I don't know, an inch of rain, I'd imagine, in the last 24 hours, and that's all faded away. I wouldn't have noticed that if I wasn't looking at the world in close-up. So I've given myself 2 pictures there. So, as I say, manhole covers are really interesting. It's starting to rain, so I should do this really quickly because we've got all the gear out here, but hopefully it will be protected. And also look for the different effect rain will make on the surfaces around you, because once the rain has come, it will transform things from the way you've seen them before in your life. So like just a normal thing like the handle of a wheelie bin will be changed as well. I'm just going to move this light back because I'm a little bit concerned with this rain. It might do just a little bit of damage to it. So I've just dropped back, and I apologise if the lighting's probably changed on me, hasn't it? I don't want it to go bang though halfway through. There you go. As is often the way, as soon as you sort stuff out, as soon as you change stuff, the weather's stopped and the rain has almost abated again. Anyway, we were talking about rain. And the great thing I love about rain, it completely transforms the environment you're in, as I mentioned before. And I love the fact that at night, particularly when you're walking around your neighbourhood, if you're having an evening walk and it's dusk time, different lights are thrown across pavements, you get great reflections. One of my favourites is when I'm walking through town after an assignment, you know, on my way home at the end of the day, a photo assignment, is if you see cars braking and the way the brake lights, the red of the brake lights are thrown across the pavement, and the same with traffic lights and cyclists and stuff. It completely transforms your world around you. And the same of course is once it stops raining and then you get sunlight out, that can really make things look really good as well. And don't forget the close-up detail with it. Now, in the last PHoGaN session, of course you remember the challenge I set you all was to take a picture using the technique of backlighting. And hey, great, you've done really well on that, and thank you all for sending your pictures in. Keep them coming in for this challenge. But before we talk about the challenge for you this time round, we're going to look at those pictures you sent in. And I know some of you did note that it's the hardest challenge you've done yet, but I have to say you all lived up to the mark on it. So let's look at some of your photos now. That's a really nice, enjoyable gallery of pictures there, so thank you all for submitting those pictures. Definitely your photography is improving, and I must mention Phil Skogstead, who composed the PHoGaN theme for us, and he very kindly recorded a new version for us, a longer version, because you'd sent so many pictures in, so we needed a little bit more length of time on that. So thank you, Phil. And the one comment I will say to all of you though is you're really taking the techniques I'm telling you on board, which is good. But I must point out, those of you who I suspect are using camera phones and compact cameras particularly, what you need to do is, rather than rely on your camera's telephoto when you're photographing stuff, is to actually just move in close to the subject yourself. The downside of any telephoto on a camera phone or a compact camera is that if you use them, then you affect the quality of your picture, and that's to do with the fact that all it's actually doing is cutting into the area image on your camera anyway, so you're better if you can move in closer to get better quality. Now, coming up for you, your challenge this week is, of course, to do some close-up detail of an everyday subject so you can transform it into a different visual experience for us, so you can make something mundane and everyday look exciting for us to look at, and it will prove that you're looking at detail in a good way as well. If you want to take part in that, then please do, and please do send your pictures to me, which is phil@philmynottphoto.co.uk, and you can follow me on Facebook. And if you're watching this for the first time and you're watching via Facebook, please do nip across to YouTube to Phil Mynott, and you can view the previous 5 episodes we filmed for you, and feel free to send in pictures if you're just joining us from the previous challenges, and we can incorporate them in a future gallery. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then all you need to do, if you want to subscribe to future ones, and please do, is just to click the icon here. And don't forget, as always, there's no such thing as bad light, just bad photographers. Now, go out there, stay dry and stay safe. Bye.